I would like to start with a few questions. Thereafter, we can just delve into any form of discussion once we are done with the questions that I'm going to ask you today. If you don't mind, Mr. Choto, may you please give us the story behind your childhood, your family in general, and some of the important highlights you still remember about your youthful years and your general upbringing.
Thank you, Mr. Joel Masuka. Soccer has been my life since I was born. I grew up in a family where my dad was a supporter of Zimbabwe Saints. Then those days it was called Mashonaland United, and he was such a great supporter, a great fan of football. But you know, I grew up in a little small location or ghetto called Glenora, and my football career started when I was just doing my grade 6 at Glenora in one of the schools at Ruveneko and Zoarabda school. And we had a teacher who was also a soccer player. This guy was, his name was Charles Mtetwa. He used to play for Cape Rovers, and that's where it started. And from there, we then in Glenora where we stayed, we had a former minister now, former minister, Mr. Francis Nema. He's the guy who started a small team in Glenora called Young Rollers. And what he was trying to do was to take away a lot of our youth from the street to be involved in football. And he managed to do that, and he bought some uniforms. And I'll never forget, it was in the early 79s and 80s. And actually Francis Nema's mother was the one who got us the t-shirt. And Buya Nema was very, very instrumental in football in Glenora. She was one of the women, although she's late now, but I still remember her, and I salute her for helping us in Glenora. So Young Rollers then brought a lot of young players that included Benjamin Mpofu, the late Weston Vembe, Jiba, the late Deft Bali, Francis Nechironga, George Nechironga, Basil Chisopo, Edwin Farai, wow, Oscar Motsi. All those players, Tidings Skater, all those players, they all went, including myself. We loved football, and we started this team, and it was in amateur. And then one of the afternoons, Obadiah Sarpinda came to Glenora, and he had heard of us. He had heard of these guys in Glenora that were playing football, and Obadiah Sarpinda took us into the Cape United Juniors, and we developed from there. And at Caps, it was one of the best institutions of football during that time. Julius Chifokoyo was the chairman, the late Dennis Matema Dombo, the directors at Caps, Mr. Maurice Kramer, Mr. Goodchild. It was so supportive, and imagining us as youth coming to Caps and watching Sticks Mtizwa, Stanley Ndunduma, Size Torindo, Charles Sbanda.
Wow.
Oh, it was a marvel. We had great players that we used to admire when we were young players. The late Friday Piri. I will not forget Sheikh Mentauro. That was the time that we knew there was a guy called Sheikh Mentauro. But wow, the thing that happened to all of us that went into the Cape United Junior Development Program was there was so much support. Cape United was an institution that was full of support from the chairman to the board and to the players. We were like family. And from there we developed with Obadiah Sarpinda. He trained us until some of the players, Oscar Motsi, Tidings Skater, Francis Nechironga, George Nechironga, they all then went in to play for Cape United first team, including myself. But the thing that motivated us most was Obadiah Sarpinda, the man they called Wasu. And that old man, he is now late. He was not only a coach, but he was a father.
You can say
there
that
was
again.
so much about, there was so many things that he did to encourage us. He spoke to us in a fatherly manner. And for us that were playing for Cape United, whenever it was Thursday at Railton, you could never notice which team was the first team.
Wow.
Because it was so competitive. You could not know which team was going to go and play the first team. I'm one of those. I happen to be the guy marking Stanley Ndunduma, and I remember Ndunduma complaining because I was a hard physical player, and it changed us. It changed us, and from there we developed, and by God's grace I was chosen to play for Zimbabwe under 23, and that was part of my development.
Wow, that's a very impressive narration of how you got involved into soccer. I just have one other question. Did you ever play for any other club besides Makepekepe?
I did spend most of my football career at Capes United. Later on, I went on the loan to play for Textiles that was coached by Shepard Murape.
Yep.
I had a good time there, and it was a long period, and after that I was with Textiles for a year. I was recalled back to Capes United, and then I just played a while, some few games, and then I had a knee injury that took me off from playing. Then from there, we were blessed during that time because we had, after Obadiah Sarpinda, Freddie Mkwesha came in. Same thing. We had wonderful coaches. Freddie Mkwesha, I think for myself, he was one of the best coaches Capes ever had. Very motivating, very technical. He was one of the best coaches I have ever come across. He inspired a lot of us as well. And it's unfortunate. If I could be asked today, what would I want to bring back to football? I would say I would want to bring back Freddie Mkwesha. I would want to bring back Obadiah Sarpinda. I would want to bring back Friday Piri. I would want to bring back Sheki Tauro, because those were great people. Those were great players. And I don't know. I hope the youngsters today can, if we still have videos with ZBC, hopefully the youngsters can watch what was happening during those days, how the players conducted themselves, including discipline, how much love they had for the game.
Thank you so much, Mr. Choto. Let's go to our next question. In fact, I just want to find out from you, what was the real source of inspiration for you to delve into this soccer career? What led you into this?
What led me into this was every one of my friends were soccer players, and imagining going to school. I went to St. Peter's Kubarana in Highfields, and most of the players, Francis Nechironga, John Mbidzo, Farai Mbidzo, Godfrey, and a lot of our players a lot of those guys were playing. So I was actually very much so motivated or driven by friends, because most of them were playing soccer.
Okay. Well, that's really good. We are going to our next question now. Would you want to walk us through your whole football soccer career in Zimbabwe and elsewhere? I think you have partially covered that this question already, but if there's anything remaining, please let us know.
I would say after Capes United, since I've already covered most of my soccer career, after Capes United, I then was asked by Joel Shampo and Sheki Tauro to join their coaching department at Blackpool. And as you are aware, those were the days of Blackpool Moto, and Blackpool became one of the best clubs and went on to win the league and the Champions Cup, and several things happened during that stay with the Blackpool. We went to play in the African Champions Cup, and even though we didn't go that far, and during that stay at Blackpool, that's where we had the likes of George Mbugando, nicknamed Zambia, who went on to play for Zimbabwe after being scouted by Blackpool. And you know, I was privileged to be part of the development that happened at Blackpool with the likes of Stuart Murisa, Alus Bunjira, Joseph Dube, Ernest Chirambadare, and Masimba Dinero, Collins Gabote. We had a good, great team there at Blackpool, and we're part of the development of that club.
Wow. My next question, Chola, is could you just tell me your most favorite position that you played throughout your career? What number, so to speak, were you playing in Caps United?
Growing up, before I tell you that's a very good question. Growing up, my dad, as I said, used to support Mashonaland United, Zimbabwe Saints. And when I was growing up, I was a fan of a guy called Philemon Dangarembwa. And those days, Philemon Dangarembwa was playing right back. And I used to watch him play, and I used to watch Ephraim Zimbiri as well. And from there, when I was asked by Obadiah Sarapinda when I went to Caps what position, I said right back. And even though at school I'd played as a goalkeeper, at St. Peter's I'd played as a goalkeeper and turned up to be a right back later on. And I enjoyed playing in a position where I could be involved and overlap and going into play. And being a right back gave me so much room to be able to be part of the team and obvious consolidates together with the whole team. It was a position that I loved and enjoyed. And I was a hard tackler. I was a very physical player, and I ended up the career of one of my best friends now, Madinda Ngovu in Baba Fields. Unfortunately, it happened, but you know, it's a game. I ended up, you know, injuring him during the game, and you know, I have no regrets about it, and today we are one of the best friends ever.
Wow. And who can you actually credit for having been your mentor or advisor in your whole career, actually, in general?
I think you know, I would speak being mentors. I would use mentors because I did not have one. I had several people that helped me in my career, that encouraged me in my career, that wanted to see me do good. I remember the guy called Weston Jiba Mvembe from Glenora. This guy was awesome. I've never seen a guy who could push other people to play. And we all looked up to this guy in Glenora. We used to jump the fence to go into Glenora Stadium. And we played at Glenora at Matombo for young rollers. And Jiba was more like a coach to us. But he developed us. And then finally, I would say the other person who encouraged me was the late Matambanadzo Benjamin Mpofu. He was one of those people also who encouraged me. And not last, the Mr. Sheikh Mentauro, Mr. Goals, he was part. He lived in Glenora, and he used to come and watch us play. And he asked us to take the opportunity that Obadiah had given us at Caps, and those people really inspired me. And above all, I would say my late father encouraged me to play as well.
Are you still in touch with some of the players that you once played with or you once played against? Do you know their whereabouts? If so, just let us have a few names.
Yeah, I've always been in touch with some of the players that I played with, and we also have a group of players, and it's on WhatsApp, Caps Legends, the players that played for Caps. So we're in constant touch. We keep in touch all the time about the developments that are happening at Caps, about just what each one of us is doing currently. And we also have the Zimbabwe Legends, which is also incorporation of players that played in Zimbabwe for different clubs, Highlanders, Zimbabwe Saints, Cape United, Dynamos. All the players are now in one Legends Association. Here in Canada and the United States, there was an association formed by, as you know, Mpumelelo Era Muna Zoa. He is based in the United States, in Texas. He formed the Zimbabwe Legends, where all players can come together and discuss the issues that are the issues that football has today, and some things that are happening in football. So it's a media group that the players can discuss issues, whether social or anything to do with football.
Wow. Like in everything else, Mr. Choto, there is what might be referred to as the cream of the cream in any profession. Who, in your own assessment, would you classify in that category? In the field of soccer, Zimbabwean soccer in particular, during the time that you played, would you say were actually the cream of the cream, regardless of which team they played for?
Yeah, I would speak of a guy. I would speak of Joseph Machingura for Zimbabwe Saints. I would speak of Nomo Marange at Tanganda. I would speak of Ephraim Zimbiri at Zisco or Risco. I would speak of Mandinda Ndlovu Peter, Abraham Bambo. I would speak of the late Benjani Konjera. I would speak of Francis Nechironga. I would speak of Tidings Keda. The list is endless, and if you want to go back to the later years, you wouldn't speak of football without talking of Max Chuma, Shaw Handriade. You wouldn't speak of football without speaking of Sande Marimo. You wouldn't go back to football without mentioning Sheki Tauro, Joe Shambo, Sticks Mtizwa, Peter Nyama. These were all great players that contributed to football, and it would be a disservice for me not to mention then the later group of guys that came in, Alois Bunjira, Stuart Murisa, Norman Mapeza, Lloyd Chitebwe, and a lot of those great players that came, Memory Mchirahoa, Joe Mugabe. There were so many. We could have made 3 to 4 national teams in Zimbabwe.
Wow. Okay, collectively, as Zimbabwe's former soccer players, what advisory role, if any, are you playing towards the extensive advancement of soccer in Zimbabwe, particularly for those less advantaged players who are in the semi or rural areas?
I've just been involved. We have formed, myself and one of my friends who is a Zimbabwe legend, Bruce Grobler. We have founded we have started an organization called the Jungleman Foundation, which we are now trying to set up and support soccer players in the rural Zimbabwe, soccer players in the small cities, so that they can all develop and have an opportunity to play. Because what had happened in Zimbabwe is we have had players that all were coming from the major cities, and the small cities were just closing doors for them. So now it's an opportunity for all of us former footballers, as I say on behalf of the former footballers, so that we can all now look into rural Zimbabwe, into the small cities, and pick up talent. There's so much talent we have in Zimbabwe. We could be one of the best soccer nations in Africa, provided we're all coming together and doing this as one, and giving hope and bringing hope to the youth.
And coming on to this question, Mr. Choto, you know very well that due to the hard economic times which the country has been going through for over 10 years, I can say, some of your fellow stars have fallen on hard times and are languishing in poverty. Are there any steps which you are taking to help in alleviating those desperate situations?
It's a very good question. What is happening is, as you have said, a lot of people back home in Zimbabwe, former players, yes, have all fallen in hard times. But what is happening is the Legends Association is trying hard to find solutions to help former players that are going through difficult financial times, former players that are not feeling well, that are sick. I've seen situations where the late Friday Piri, when he was going through his illness, the former players and other players all over the world were helping Friday Piri. I can talk of Ali Baba, who is Highlanders legend, Highlanders coach legend, where players from diaspora helped him when he was going through his sickness. And I'm glad to say now he's much more better, and the soccer players, the former soccer players, brought their resources together. It's not an easy task to do, but from what I've seen so far, players, former players, are putting their resources together to help in time of need.
Yeah, my last question to you is actually in the form of a request to you, Mr. Choto, Chola, I can say. Is it possible for you to help us locate some of the soccer players, former soccer players, I can say, who are within Zimbabwe and those who are in the diaspora, so we may actually videotape them for the benefit of our soccer lovers and also for history's sake, because we are actually building a huge database of video, audio from our former players, soccer players, that is. We are building a huge database. This is going to be a continuing effort for time immemorial. It's actually, that's why we have actually put a category on the Zim Focus News website. Yes. We have specifically dedicated one category which is named ZimLegends. We actually will be looking forward to you, people like you, Mr. Choto, to help us locate some of those soccer players so they can tell their story, and the generation to come is going to benefit from such narrations.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, Mr. Masuka, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and trying to help our sports personalities all over. It can be football, it can be athletics, it can be basketball, it can be rugby. We really appreciate. And just to say this on behalf of the Zimbabwe Legends, I want to thank you for collecting data, for trying to make sure that history is not erased, that the history of football, the history of Oliver Kateya, the history of Frank Mukanga, the history of Jafet Mparutsa, the history of Peter Nkomo is remembered for the rest of our lives. The history of Mpumelelo Dzowa is remembered. So we appreciate your efforts, and we are glad because we are leaving history for our children and the youth to come. As I said again, we have a data, we have collection. We can give you the information of the players, because what we have, most of the clubs have formed their legends. Caps United have their Caps United legends. Dynamos, I think they have their own Dynamos legends. But above all, we have a Legends Association that incorporates all the players that played, and all those even that went to run for Zimbabwe. Ebo Chimkongo, I think, or one of the guys that were running for Zimbabwe. So we have the information, and we can pass on the information to you, so that this information can be recorded, because the thing with football today is we have not had any recordings of Oliver Kateya, any recordings of the great Sandy Marimo, Stephen Chimeza, Faka Simbi, Sho Andriade, Sugar Muguyo. And I think this is very important for people to know where these players came from Fred Mkusha and all those players that played for Zimbabwe. I think it is very important that you have, this is an assistance that you have given us, and we are very thankful, and on behalf of the Zimbabwe legends all over the world, I want to say thank you so much for doing that. And I sincerely hope this information can help our former footballers that are coming in the ranks, that are replacing us or that have already replaced us. So I think this is a great idea, and please don't give up and continue to do that, and hopefully you will get all the information that you need in the long run.
This has been a fascinating interview from which we have just heard with Mr. Choto. Thank you very much, Darlington, Choto, Chola, so to speak. It was a fascinating interview. We are going to have similar interviews with individuals like Bruce Grobler, Stix Mtizwa, if I can get hold of him. We grew up together in Mbare,
yes,
when I used to play with his brother Mike Mtizwa.
Yes.
We are actually going to be doing this not only for soccer players,
yes,
for our former soccer players,
yeah,
but we are also going to be doing this in the music field. For those individuals who have excelled in the field of music,
yes,
in the culture, arts,
yes,
name it.
yes.
This is going to be a very fascinating page, the ZimLegends. It's going to incorporate all those people whom we thought they had been actually thrown into the dustbin of history.
Yes.
We are going to revitalize our memories of their performance and their contribution in whatever they did during their years of youth. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Choto.
Once again, I just want to say to you, Mr. Masuka, I really appreciate. Thank you for reviving the yesteryears of football, the yesteryears of sports in Zimbabwe. And to all our legends, you might be overseas, in diaspora, in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo. Guys, we need your support. We need you to give us the information. Mr. Masuka is here with me. He is going to be our data person. He is going to be reporting on all the things. Anyone with the information, you guys, you have my number, you have my WhatsApp, you have my email address, and all the information that you need. Please get in touch so that this football cannot die. We want our kids, we want our friends, we want Zimbabwe to know what was happening in football, what was happening in 400 meters relay, who won this, what happened to Tar Baby, what happened to Mosquito. So guys, thank you so much, and keep in touch.